If any kind of disaster were to strike, man-made, military, an act of God, how prepared are you to take care of your family? We're going to give you some helpful tips on this series on emergency preparedness. This is the Voice of Resistance.
Those who forsake the law praise the wicked. Those who uphold the law resist them. Welcome to the Voice of Resistance. Here's your host, Randall Terry.
Welcome to the program, friend. There are doomsday people that have been around for a long time, always predicting the end of the world, always, some of them saying when Jesus is going to return, encouraging people to sell everything. There have been a lot of crackpots over the decades. And unfortunately, the backlash of that for some people has been to think, don't worry about it, we don't have to prepare. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, all right? Because contrary to public opinion, food does not come from grocery stores. Food comes from the earth. Food comes from animals. And when you see the footage like the snowstorms that hit the Northeast and all the way down to Atlanta in this past year, you see the footage of grocery stores being picked clean in a moment. That's because these people weren't prepared. And there's a verse in the Bible that says, the wise man sees danger approaching and prepares for it. So what we're going to look at in this series is not about some end of the world scenario. This is simply biblical prudence to provide for your family should tough times hit. You're going to learn a lot if you watch these episodes. I promise you they'll be interesting. And we introduce you to the series. Welcome to today's program, friend. Today we begin a multi-part series, a discussion, if you will, on being prepared. We kicked around, do we call this preparing for the inevitable? Do we call it being prepared for hard times to come? The title is not as important as the content and what we're going to discuss. And I want you to know that as we have been talking and praying as a team, preparing for these shows, we're mindful of the fact that some people live in the city, some people live in the suburbs, some people live in the country, and preparation for hard times would look a little bit different in some cases. Everybody is going to need to be prepared should all hell break loose, either against an American city or 2 or 3 cities or a region of the country, or heaven forbid, the whole nation itself. But I think that as we go forward in today's program, and I'm going to make the case today as to why I believe, why our team believes that hard times are inevitable, all right? Inevitable. What I want to do with this series is to give you permission to begin to do your own research, to begin to do your own preparation, and for you to integrate into your thinking and really into your daily life the fact that more than likely there are hard times coming, and that it behooves you, if you are a father or a mother or a single adult for that matter, with adult parents that you have to take care of, it behooves you to prepare. Now, the gospel reading in many churches in the last week was the one where the man built bigger barns. Remember the passage where he said, hey, look, I've had a bountiful crop, build extra silos, eat, drink, and be merry. Soul, you have much laid up for many years. Take thine ease. And then God said, you fool, tonight your soul will be required of you. Then whose shall those things be? We are not talking about self-consumed, lazy gratification. We're talking about preparation for difficult times. And there is a difference. And the reason that this is critical to think about is because some of you watching this, myself included, have gone or are going to local churches where the pastor or the preacher or the elder would speak ill of or even maybe mock people or take little jabs at people from the pulpit who are preparing themselves and their family against hard times. And I want to be an antidote to that for your sake. I mean, the simple fact is that if hard times came today, all right, if for some reason water services were interrupted, for example, in your community, what would you do? I mean, there's a really simple question. I mean, how much water do you have that you could live on? Because the human body cannot survive more than 3 or 4 days, depending on how much perspiration is going on, and then you're going to die. So, just that one little illustration. How much water do you have on hand should water services be interrupted? Well, I've got a well, Randall. Okay, great. What if there's no electricity? How does your water come out of the ground? You get my point? When we come back from this break, I'm going to read a passage from the book of Proverbs from 5 or 6 different translations to show you how it is God's will for us to prepare for the difficult times that are coming. And for those who are still unsure, I've got a quick series of questions for you about, say, your car insurance. Don't go away.
You have 2 choices. I mean, you can try to raise your children by design, or you will raise them by default. There are no perfect parents. We're going to get it wrong sometimes. If we have a plan, we've got a better chance of getting it right in the long run.
There is something deep within the heart of every human being that longs for parental acceptance and approval. When does a boy become a man?
Get a group of guys around and ask them that question.
I don't think there's a certain age. Some men stay boys their whole life.
I would say, 16, 18 years old.
Wow, that's a good question.
When they get bar mitzvah.
Well, I think when he has a child. So I just became at 56, 56 years old.
Without the power of the Holy Spirit changing us and giving us power over our sin, we can't hope to be the dads that our kids need us to be.
Welcome back to the program, friend. During the break, we were talking about the fact that the Mormons, Latter-day Saints, whatever they call themselves, and I'm obviously a Christian, and I believe that the Mormon religion is based upon a heresy about the divinity of Christ and a great number of things. That said, there are people who will mock or dismiss preparation against difficult times because the Mormons, as a part of their culture, have a year's supply of food on hand should things go bad. Listen to me. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, all right? Just because it's a part of Mormon culture and Mormon behavior doesn't mean that it's a bad idea any more than the fact that they bathe, okay? There are good things that can be learned in cultures or even theologies with which we are diametrically opposed. And if somebody is mocking preparation against hard times because it's something that the Mormons are doing, it's bait and switch. It's mix and match. You don't want to get caught up in that. Trust me. All right. What you do want to get caught up in is preparation. Let me read to you the book of Proverbs, chapter 27, verse 12, from several different translations. The New International Version says, "The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty." The New Living Translation says, "A prudent person foresees danger and takes precautions. The simpleton goes blindly on and suffers the consequences." The English Standard Version says, "The prudent sees danger and hides himself, but the simple go on and suffer for it." The King James says, "A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished." I could go on, but you get the point. If we are wise men and women, when we see danger or hard times approaching, we hide ourselves, we take cover, We prepare for the difficulties that are going to happen. That is prudence. The fool, the simpleton, all right, the person who lacks wisdom, doesn't prepare. Now, to prove my point a bit further, some of you may be thinking, well, I don't want to be into this doom and gloom thing. I don't want to be fearful. I want to have faith and trust in the Lord that He's going to take care of us. Jesus said, don't give any thought for your food. Don't give any thought for what you're going to wear, right? The birds of the air have food. The flowers of the field have clothing. We're not supposed to worry and just trust the Lord. Seek first the kingdom of God and all these things will be added to you. There's a great danger in taking Bible verses out of context and taking them out of the full breadth of the Scripture from the book of Genesis to the book of Revelation. All righty? I'll ask you this simple question. Do you have car insurance? Do you have health insurance? If you own your home, do you have homeowner's insurance? If you have chattel property, do you have renter's insurance or contents insurance? If you have your own business, do you have liability insurance? Most of you are saying yes, 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 yes. Well, the proverb says, the wise person sees danger approaching and prepares for it. So if you got sick, you could go to the hospital and your insurance bill is taken care of. It's not a lack of faith, it's wisdom in preparation. If your house burns to the ground, you're prepared. The insurance company is going to settle with you and write you a check and you're going to build a new house instead of being desolate. If you have a car wreck, your car will be replaced. Any damage you do to someone else's car, if it's your fault, is going to be taken care of. These examples that I'm giving you are not an illustration of a lack of faith. They're an illustration of the presence of prudence, of wisdom, of preparation. I believe that there are very, very difficult times approaching, dangerous times. I'm going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to read a couple passages from the Bible to explain to you why I think those things are coming and why I believe that they're inevitable. All right? Then we will start to discuss what can we do to prepare ourselves so that if all hell does break loose against us, if God's judgment is unleashed upon us, whether in stages or with the full fury of His hand, how we and our children can fare a little bit better because of our wisdom and our preparation. Don't go away. Do you want to have knowledge, wisdom, discernment? If so, you have to read good books on theology, history, books that look at the lives of great men and women. So to help you to become a more effective Christian, a better witness for truth, somebody who can engage in productive conversation that exhorts and edifies those that you speak with, we're going to do something crazy. We're offering you these 7 books for a gift of any size. You just pay for the shipping and handling, and then give whatever gift that you can, and we will send them to you. But just to make it a little bit more crazy, I will send you a second copy of my 3 books, autographed. You can give them as a gift to your pastor or to a family member and help extend truth and justice in the world. This is while supplies last. We have put together what we call an online university for you. Now that's a highfalutin way of saying that we have a pretty significant library of material, books, tapes, videos that are there for you for free. Why are we doing this? Because America is desperate for new leaders, and because this material could help you to become the leader that you and God want you to be. Check it out and enjoy it. Success cannot be guaranteed. There are no safe battles. Sir Winston Churchill. Welcome back to the program, friend. A great study that you could do would be to read the book of Judges. Read it in one sitting, all right? The book of Judges is sort of a template of the whole human race and how God deals with nations. Now, there are some people who think that God does not judge nations. That is simply not true. Both the Old and New Testament are filled with examples where God says He will bless a nation or judge a nation. And we, as the people of the United States of America, are part of a body politic that God watches. And because we're in this geographic area we call the United States of America, and some of us are in large cities, some of us are in the suburbs, some of us are in the country, if God does bring, say, a drought to an area, just a full-blown drought, you might be a really wicked person and your conscience might be plaguing you, or you might be a righteous person and you're saying, God, why is this happening? Jesus said God makes the rain to fall on the just and the unjust. And the inverse of that is true. He holds rain, and if He turns the heavens into brass, like He did in the days of Elijah, then everyone is thirsty. Everyone has to contend with their water supply. The Obama administration, in my opinion, is the most wicked and corrupt administration that has ever cursed this nation. But our woes and our evils did not start with the Obama administration. We have to be nonpartisan. We can't be Democrats or Republicans or independents when we look at the ethics of this country. All right? We've been killing our own children for over a generation. Through every pro-life Republican president, every pro-choice Democratic president, this vile evil has continued. I'm going to read to you a couple passages that will show you why I believe judgment is inevitable. For example, Deuteronomy 18, verse 9 says, when you are come into the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. There shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire. This is offering their children to Molech, child sacrifice. All right? He goes on in verse 12 to say, for all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord, and because of these abominations the Lord thy God doth drive them out from before thee. In other words, these nations that the Jews were displacing were committing witchcraft, homosexual deeds, bestiality. They were killing their babies. And God said, don't you do this, because if you do, I'm going to deal with you. Here's another warning from the book of Leviticus, chapter 18. It says, and thou shalt not let any of thy seed, that's their children, pass through the fire to Molech. Neither shalt thou profane the name of thy God. I am the Lord. Thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is an abomination. This is God saying, don't have homosexual activity. Men do not lie with other men as you would with women. Neither shall you lie with any beast to defile thyself therewith. Neither shall any woman stand before a beast to lie down thereto. It is a confusion. Do not defile yourselves in any of these things, for in all these things the nations are defiled, which I cast out before you. And the land is defiled, therefore I do visit the iniquity thereof upon it, and the land itself vomits out the inhabitants. Then he goes on to say, listen, you shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, and shall not commit any of these abominations, neither any of your own nation, nor any stranger that sojourns among you. This is God saying, look, it's the same law applies to Jew and to non-Jew, to believer and to pagan. There are Christians who say, well, you can't expect the pagans to obey the law of God. No, God just says you shall not murder. God doesn't say Christians don't murder, but pagans, you can go ahead and commit murder and I won't hold it against you. No. And he says that the land spew you not also when you defile it, as it spewed out the nations before you. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will look at one more passage that shows the danger that we are in. because as a nation, we have turned our back on God and His laws. Christ have mercy on us. I'll be right back. My wife and I, for 5 years, have been grinding our own wheat and baking our own bread from scratch. Within 2 hours, you can have fresh wheat in your hand and then piping hot bread come out of the oven. The most nutritious and delicious bread you will ever have. And we do it for under $1 a loaf. Call Paula's Bread and find out about this grain mill and the mixer and how it can save you money and change your life. I have been a leader in the pro-life movement for 30 years. And sadly, we have not prevailed in our goal to make it a criminal act to kill an unborn baby. There's reasons why we have failed. I wrote this book, A Humble Plea, to Catholic bishops, to evangelical clergy, and to lay people, explaining where we went wrong and what we have to do to prevail. We've made this available as a PDF online for free. I encourage you to go and download your own copy. Hi friend, I'm Randall Terry. George Washington said, "Few men have virtue to withstand the highest bidder." Welcome back to the program, friend. We have begun a multi-part series discussing why we need to be prepared for difficult times that are coming, and then what exactly can we do. But to finish up this program as to why I believe that judgment is inevitable, I'm going to read to you from Deuteronomy chapter 28, beginning with verse 15. "But it shall come to pass, if you will not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all His commandments and His statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee, these curses, and overtake thee. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, cursed shalt thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy land, and the increase of thy kine and the flocks of thy sheep." Jumping on to verse 23, "And thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron." This is God saying drought is coming. "The Lord shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust. From heaven it shall come down upon thee until thou be destroyed. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies, and thou shalt go out one way against them and flee 7 ways from before them." Jumping over to verse 38, "Thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, and shalt gather in but little, for the locust shall consume it. Thou shalt plant vineyards and dress them, but shalt neither drink of the wine nor gather the grapes, for the worms shall eat them." Verse 43, "The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low." This is talking about foreigners ruling us. "He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be thy head, and thou shalt be the tail." Do you realize that we're borrowing money from China now? All right? I'm just about out of time. We are going to talk about what preparations to make. But to quote Billy Graham from many years ago, he said, if God doesn't judge the United States of America, He's going to have to apologize to Sodom and Gomorrah. We're in deep danger, people. We're in deep danger. Thomas Jefferson said, "I tremble for my country when I remember that God is just, and that His justice cannot sleep forever." The question is this: are you and I ready for the heaven to become brass? The wise man sees danger approaching and prepares. We could have fierce and horrible times come upon our nation, but our families could be okay. And as a dad, I have a duty to my kids. If you've got kids of your own, you have a duty to them. Watch these programs. Start to ponder being prepared. Well, I hope you liked the first episode. We've got 5 of them in this series. If you miss any of them, you can find them at our website. Go to voiceofresistance.com to learn more. And by the way, we do not sell any emergency prepared materials. We're not trying to make money off of this.
We're trying to help you to be prepared, to protect your family and to provide for your family should disaster strike. So go to the website, check it out. Be prepared.